And then we'll get some rest.
For the rest is needed. In the last few months, it's been really hectic. Getting ready to cover these elections, and you see, it just didn't start with the opening of nominations. It started way before, since the party decided to go for Congress to elect presidential candidates, elect parliamentary candidates, all the way to this time where we have 8 days. 8 days to the elections. It's been a really hectic period where you are making sure you are covering every party, you're covering every candidate, you are getting your viewers and your listeners to have information which is credible. Which is credible.
In the days of fake news and disinformation
and misinformation, we are always making sure that whatever information we put out is credible, is accurate, and also preparing for the D-Day, which is next week, Saturday. It's a lot of work. I mean, as media people, as we always say, this is the time where we really put in a lot of work outside your regular working schedule. This time has a lot of some hectic schedules. We are hoping that after
there won't be a runoff. There won't be a runoff.
we may have a president-elect. If it doesn't happen like that, then it means that we are going to have another 2 weeks of
serious work. This is going to be 28th of December per the Constitution.
Exactly.
Friend, the much awaited, the much anticipated Peace Pact, came off after, withdrawal and restriction and hesitation from some political parties. The National Peace Council decided to put all of them in one room and get them to commit to peace before, during, and after the general election on December 7th. A good move?
Oh yes, it was good seeing all the presidential candidates represented at the event. You see, before this event, we had concerns by the NDC who had raised certain issues, claiming that if those issues, or demanding that if they were not resolved, they were not going to sign the Peace Pact. Issues of prosecution of people who are involved in election violence. These were some of the concerns they had, and they had made it clear that they were not going to sign the Peace Pact. But I mean, yesterday we saw the presidential candidate there, we saw the presidential candidate of a New Patriotic Party there, and all the other presidential candidates represented at the event. Was it a good move? I mean, signing a Peace Pact in itself is a good move. I mean, having people come live on TV and appending their signatures, telling the whole country that they are committed to peace is a good move. But the issue is peace just signing a document. Having to maintain and keep peace just signing a document.
And my argument has always been that if there's chaos or violence, it is not the presidential candidates, it's the supporters. It trickles down.
A lot of the times.
A lot of the time. So if the presidential candidate commits to peace, what about the supporters down there who disagree a lot when it comes to, politics in this nature?
The responsibility lies on them as leaders of the political parties and leaders of their people to instruct, to encourage, to tell their people to keep the peace of the country, not to engage in any form of violence. You see, it may not come from them, but we also know that followers usually listen to their leaders. So if the leaders speak in a particular way, the leaders act in a particular way, which all toes to peace, there's a high likelihood that the supporters will also toe that same line. But if the leaders act in a different way, an opposite way, a way which does not lead to peace, you are likely to see the supporters also doing the same. You understand? So it's good to have the leaders sign. It's good to have the leaders say that they are committed to it. But as I said, it doesn't end there. Now they need to show it. They need to act it in their engagements, in their instructions. It should show. It shouldn't be just.
But Fred, with the two political parties, trading accusations and counter accusation. I think last week or 2 weeks ago, press conference by the two political parties, Sami Dako of the NDC, Sami Jemfi of the NDC, as well as Henry Nana Boakye of the NPP, holding separate press conferences, trading accusations of plans and ploys to cause mayhem, particularly in the Ashanti region. Isn't that more or less inciting supporters to do opposite what the Peace Pact is supposed to do?
Yes, it may. It may incite supporters to go and do things they are not supposed to do. But you see, once you sign this Peace Pact, it doesn't mean you wouldn't have consents. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't have
binding
issues.
Enough?
No, I mean, it doesn't mean you have issues. You may have issues, but the Peace Pact gets you to come to the table. It gets you to go to the right place to get your grievances solved, instead of going to the wrong forum to go and incite people. You see, this is all the Peace Pact aims to do. That look, you may have consents. It doesn't mean the fact that you signed the Peace Pact doesn't mean you don't have consents. You may have consents, and you would have consents. But how do you address those consents? You address those consents through the right channels, not the wrong channels. Through coming to meet with the Peace Council, meeting with the police. If you have consents which are criminal, you go to the police. If you have consents which you think that should be addressed by the elders, you go to the elders. Speak. You trash it out, rather than going to stand on political platforms to incite people to engage in violence. You understand? So this is what the Peace Pact does. It just commits everybody to go through a process which leads to peace. Yeah. That is what they are going to do, and we hope that that is what they will continue doing.
We expect that at the end of the day, we'll see the peace that we expect. And I've always said, Fred, you know, Ghana is a peaceful country. I've traveled extensively enough. And when you get to countries, you know, and you look at the situation there, and you look at what's happening here in Ghana, I think we are blessed. And the onus lies on all of us to ensure that there's peaceful election before, during, and after the December general election. Fred, the Electoral Commission has been in the news again.
Oh, yes.
This week, they met the National Election Security Task Force, led by the IGP, Inspector General of Police, about their preparation for the election. On the 2nd of December, there's special voting.
Exactly.
The special voting entails journalists will be busy on December 7th, and security officers or the security other officials
of the Electoral Commission who will be engaged in official work during the voting process, the voting day.
Okay. The ECCS is ready.
Yes, we have over 131,000 people who will be voting on the 2nd of December.
Okay.
The ECCS is ready. The police tells us that every security measure needed has been put in place to ensure the peace of the country, to ensure the security of everybody who is going to be involved on the 2nd and on the 7th. The police also tells us that the IGP is in charge of this election.
As far as security is concerned, yeah.
So we wouldn't have to be seeing military men going in and out like we've seen in other elections. The military has also told us that they only intervene upon the request of the IGP.
Okay.
They are not going to go anywhere without the direction of the IGP. So meaning that anytime we see a military man at a particular polling station,
it means they are coming there upon the instructions of the
IGP. We have been also told that there will be no arms at polling areas, in voting areas. Yeah. So unlike previously where you see policemen and other security officials with arms going in and out of voting centers, the IGP is telling us that this time around they are not going to allow arms, whether security or individuals, to take charge or to be coming into voting centers. Okay. They will deal with anybody who comes in with arms. They are ready, and their men have been put in place to ensure that there's no violence, there's no disruption to the election. People can go peacefully to go and vote and go home safely. We come back after voting, count, and everything goes safely. The IGP wants to prevent events which are taking place in past elections. And he is saying that he is ready, the task force is ready, and they are ready to ensure that we all are safe during this election period.
The deployments, the Electoral Commission says, is deployed almost 95% of all the materials that will be needed or be used for the election. It mentions that there are some few regions, I think the
Volta region,
and some other, yes,
and some few regions,
which the chairperson says will be ready by close of this week.
Yes,
and all materials will be deposited at the is it the regional police?
The armory
within the various regions for the election.
Yes.
In fact, it looks like all is set. But there's one restriction. We had Dr. Bosman Asare, the deputy chairperson of the Electoral Commission, making some announcements, which a number of us journalists are unhappy with this particular restriction in code that the EC wants to impose on journalists in the coverage of this election. What's the detail of this restriction the EC intends to impose?
So the Electoral Commission sent a circular to its regional and constituency directors, telling them about some restrictions for collation centers. According to the Electoral Commission, the number of journalists have been limited to go into a particular collation areas, collation centers, the regional collation center, the constituency collation center. It's been limited. So depending on where you find yourself, from the constituency collation centers, you have 8 accredited journalists or media houses which will be allowed in there. In the regional center, you have 13 which will be allowed. And this has raised a lot of concerns among media men, and not just media men, civil society organizations, and the general public as a whole. You know, our country and elections are made more transparent through
when the media is present.
And this is what has taken place since 96. Since 96, when we had the introduction of private media way into 2000. So from 2000, really, elections have always had the media aspect of it, where we have media men deployed to almost all constituencies, polling stations. They bring us results, they bring us reports, and all other things which concerns the election. So it came to me as a surprise and a shock to hear the EC seeking to limit the number of media men to go into the collation center. One of the reasons given by the deputy chair of the commission, Bosman Asari, was that, Dr. Bosman Asari, was that it had to do with security, it had to do with space. But you see, Sami?
When we talk about space, I know that in these, places, these collations, it normally happens in bigger halls.
Yes.
Space, for instance, in the Medina constituency, they normally use the Presec assembly hall, and that can take like 2,000 people.
Yes.
So where is the what word do I use? The space that they are looking for is a bigger space. Overcrowding in a 2,000 sitting capacity hall, I don't really get it.
Your shock is the same as mine.
When I heard him speak, I was like, oh really? Who advised these guys?
I think it was ill thought of. It was not well thought of. I'm sure if they had sat down to discuss with the various stakeholders within the media space, they would have gotten a better
understanding of this,
understanding of the coverage of elections in the country. At least now the EC have told us that they are engaging
media
commission,
the
GEBA and the GJA. Just yesterday, the GJA president made a statement and said that the engagement is ongoing, and they would insist that the EC allows every media man, every journalist who have been well accredited to go and cover the elections. You see, why did you accredit us then? Did you just accredit us to come and watch the process of voting? The whole election is a process. It's not one thing.
Yeah, it's not an event.
It's not an event. It starts from the voting process. It even starts way before the voting process.
Way before.
And we stood here some time ago and we asked the EC and encouraged the EC to even open IPAC, which they did. Which we commended. It was a good decision by the EC to open up IPAC for everyone to follow the process.
Hello again. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Channel 1 TV. Shortly, we'll take you live to the headquarters of the Electoral Commission, where the EC is having its Inter-Party Advisory Committee meeting with all the political parties. Please stay tuned.
So that is the approach. 2, by law, it is the work of the returning officer that we are using. The Excel one is just an additional layer to make sure